For more than 10 years, Cornelia Marie was the soul of Deadliest Catch. Fans came to know it as the home of the tough yet beloved Captain Phil Harris, a man who lived and breathed the sea. When he passed, his sons, Josh and Jake, stepped up and promised to carry the torch. Viewers rooted for them. But in August 2022, everything changed. Out of nowhere, a buried court document surfaced online. At first, it seemed like just another old legal file. But as people dug deeper, it became clear. Josh Harris had been hiding something terrible for 24 years. A crime so disturbing and deeply unsettling that it shook fans to the core. Within days, Discovery scrubbed every trace of Cornelia Marie from its shows. Streaming platforms followed, yanking entire seasons almost overnight. So, what exactly did Josh do? The beginning. The Cornelia Marie was built in 1989 at Horton Boats in Bayou La Batre, Alabama. La Batre was a small, salty shipbuilding town with generations of craftsmanship behind every weld. Known for its hard-working yards and weathered builders, the town had launched hundreds of vessels over the decades, including shrimp boats, trawlers, and crabbers alike. But the Cornelia Marie wasn't just another job, it marked the end of an era. This was the final large-scale commercial build overseen by legendary shipbuilder Elmo Horton, a man whose name still carries weight in Gulf Coast maritime circles. With its heavy steel frame, wide beam, and long, sleek deck, the Cornelia Marie was built to thrive in the Bering Sea. It measured 128 feet from bow to stern and stretched 28 feet across the beam. With a draft of just over 11 feet, it sat deep and steady, cut from heavy steel and engineered to handle the punishing conditions of the Bering Sea. Everything about it was designed for endurance, from the reinforced hull to the sheer weight it carried. Below deck, it held real power. Twin Cummins QSK 19M diesel engines gave the Cornelia Marie the muscle it needed to punch through waves and outrun incoming storms. Each engine pushed 750 horsepower, enough to drive the vessel at speeds up to 14.5 knots, fast for a boat of its size and class. That speed mattered when the clock was ticking during short crab seasons. When others slowed down, this boat charged forward. The Cornelia Marie was built with fuel tanks holding 28,500 gallons and another 3,000 gallons of fresh water. It could stay out at sea for weeks at a time without needing to return to port, an essential advantage when chasing quotas in the brutal, evolving world of Alaskan crabbing. That kind of range turned it into a serious competitor. While other boats had to weigh fuel limits against crab numbers, this one could push farther and fish longer. Out on the Bering Sea, where every hour counts and storms can trap you miles from help, that self-sufficiency could mean the difference between profit and loss, or between survival and disaster. It cost $2.5 million to build, a massive investment at the time, but the gamble paid off. The Cornelia Marie quickly earned a reputation not just for its muscle, but for its efficiency, reliability, and ability to haul serious loads in the harshest waters on Earth. The name of the boat was something special in a way that set it apart from the rest of the fleet. Ralph Collins, the man who commissioned the build, didn't choose some mythological figure or poetic phrase like so many captains did. He named it after his wife, Cornelia Marie Collins. This was a recognition of partnership. Cornelia wasn't someone who stood back and watched. She worked the business right beside him, dealing with logistics, finances, and the endless unseen demands that keep a boat afloat. Naming the vessel after her was a statement of respect. Even after their marriage ended, Cornelia remained a part owner. The name never came off the hull, not even for a second. By then, it had already become more than paint and lettering, and eventually, it would become a name known by millions. With its aquamarine hull, crisp white trim, and bold yellow banners flying proudly, the Cornelia Marie was hard to miss. It announced itself, whether it was docked in Kodiak, waiting out weather in Dutch Harbor, or pushing through waters. The boat stood out with a look that was both iconic and unmistakable. But it wasn't just a pretty paint job. From the very beginning, the Cornelia Marie went headlong with the worst the Bering Sea had to offer. It hunted king crab, opilio crab, salmon, and herring, each season bringing its dangers. These were some of the roughest waters on Earth, and this boat was built to conquer them. Thanks to its enormous fuel tanks and generous freshwater capacity, the Cornelia Marie could outlast many of its rivals. While others were forced to turn back for supplies, it kept fishing. In a fishery where the clock never stops and the margins are razor-thin, it helped carve the boat's reputation as one of the toughest on the water. The early crew of the Cornelia Marie consisted of a mix of seasoned veterans and newcomers. Some were drawn to the thrill, the danger, and the promise of big paydays. Others were just trying to scrape by, hoping to outrun their past or start over. Either way, they all faced the same brutal conditions. Icy waves slammed over the bow without warning, soaking everything in bitter cold. Winds howled through the rigging like a warning no one could afford to ignore. Every shift was a gamble. One bad step and a man could be lost to the sea. Still, the Cornelia Marie kept pushing through, trip after trip. During the deadly winter of 2005, when the Big Valley went down in the icy blackness, the Cornelia Marie joined the desperate search for survivors. Only one man was pulled from the wreckage alive, but that mission left a mark. Efforts like that helped cement Cornelia Marie's reputation. It wasn't just a vessel built to haul crab. Long before cameras came aboard, or fame found it, the boat had already earned its place as a legend among those who made their living on the edge of the world. By the 1990s and early 2000s, the Cornelia Marie had become something of a star in its own right. A major refit added 22 feet to its length, boosting its crab capacity by 100,000 pounds. At full haul, the boat could now bring in more than 300,000 pounds of crab in a single trip. While other boats struggled through hard seasons or folded under pressure, the Cornelia Marie stayed strong. Its success came from hard work, smart choices, and frequent choices, all traits that would one day make the boat perfect for reality TV. At the heart of that story was Phil Harris. He came aboard in the early 1990s, earned his place, and became part owner. By 1998, he had taken the helm as captain. The transition phase. Phil Harris was tough as nails, demanding and fiercely loyal to his crew. He treated the men on the Cornelia Marie like family, backing them up through every storm, injury, and long night on the rails. His bond with that boat ran deep. It lasted more than 20 years and shaped the heart of what the Cornelia Marie would become. His journey began in Bottle, Washington, a small town where he first learned the trade of fishing with his father at the age of 8. By 17, Harris had dropped out of high school. Interestingly, money pulled him into crab fishing. A friend had made over $100,000 in a single season and drove home in a brand new car. Meanwhile, Harris was stuck in an old Chevelle and dreaming bigger, so he packed up and headed north. The first season nearly broke him. He made nothing and quit once, but when the captain mocked him for walking away, Harris came back with something to prove. At 19, he finally earned $130,000 in a single season. 2 years later, at 21, he owned his first boat called the Golden Viking. His skipper handed him the wheel on his birthday. While that should have been a celebration, it came with crushing debt, broken equipment, and the near-impossible task of earning respect as a young captain. At one point, he was staring down $50,000 in emergency repairs. Most people would have walked away, but Harris didn't. By his mid-20s, he had already built a reputation as one of the toughest, smartest captains on the Bering Sea. He was known for chain-smoking and barking orders, but beneath the hard surface, he cared deeply. He shared profits fairly. He never asked his crew to do anything he wouldn't do himself, and they respected him for that. Many of them came back, season after season, through the worst the sea could throw at them. His personal life was another story. 2 divorces and struggles with substance abuse. He wasn't perfect, but when it came to the boat and the crew, he gave everything he had. Empty crab pots kept him up at night, because to him, that meant his crew might go home with nothing. That was something he couldn't accept. Under Harris's command, the Cornelia Marie went through huge changes. In one major overhaul, the boat was cut into 4 pieces and extended by 22 feet. That added 100,000 pounds of extra crab capacity. His sons, Josh and Jake, joined him on deck, turning the Cornelia Marie into more than just a fishing vessel. In 2005, something big happened. The Cornelia Marie became one of just 4 boats chosen for full coverage on Deadliest Catch in Season 2. Producers had a tough job. Over 250 boats were working the Bering Sea, and they only wanted the best. By the end, they had narrowed the list to about 89. The Cornelia Marie stood out because of its strong catches and because of Captain Phil Harris. Phil wasn't convinced at first. He didn't love the idea of cameras following his crew around. He worried that filming would get in the way, mess with the workflow, or worse, capture something during a dangerous moment that should have stayed private. Discovery Channel wanted a reliable boat, but Phil wanted to protect his crew and keep the focus on fishing. Nevertheless, the timing was right. That year, the industry made a major shift. The new individual fishing quota system replaced the old derby-style crab season. It slowed the chaos but raised the bar. Only the most capable boats were picked. The Cornelia Marie had earned its spot in that elite group. Phil made a bold move when he brought his sons, Josh and Jake, on board. It added a whole new layer to the show. However, Phil didn't give them special treatment. He pushed them hard, just like everyone else. What viewers saw on screen was real. The work, the tension, and the moments when fatherhood clashed with leadership. One scene still sticks with fans. The scene where Phil looked at Jake and said, "You need to go to treatment, man. At least you'll have a fighting chance." The cameras followed the brothers as they learned the ropes of crab fishing, and they kept rolling as Phil's health began to fail. Viewers had watched him work, lead, struggle, and love. Phil's honesty was a big part of why people connected with him. He was rough around the edges, quick to speak his mind, and often hilarious without even trying. Who could forget lines like, "I feel like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest," or, "Now you know why lions eat their young." That humor helped him get through the hardest moments. Another thing that helped him get through was his boat. The Cornelia Marie didn't look like the others. That bold mix of aquamarine, white, and yellow made it a brand. Fans bought hats, shirts, mugs, and even tiny model ships. People posted photos every time they saw it in port, like spotting an old friend. Even when it changed owners or disappeared from the show for a while, the image never lost power. The boat also earned its fame from its numbers. From the beginning, the Cornelia Marie hauled in big catches. In the brutal season of 2005, it was one of the top boats. Phil pushed hard, chasing storms, racing rivals, and staying out longer. The boat gave him the muscle to do it. At 128 feet long, it could carry nearly 300 tons of crab. That meant fewer trips back to port and more time pulling in pots. The results weren't just good TV. They showed the skill and grind of the crew. They showed how far Phil was willing to go. However, another story was playing out. Phil was larger than life, and so was his struggle with addiction. He wasn't only the skipper barking orders from the wheelhouse. He was the man with a cigarette always burning between his fingers. The show captured everything. The chain smoking, the endless pots of coffee, and the Red Bull cans stacked like fuel cells. It looked like part of the character, but it was slowly killing him. In 2008, Phil suffered a pulmonary aneurysm at sea. That should have been the turning point. Doctors begged him to stop. His crew and his sons begged him, but Phil didn't quit. He didn't quit smoking the drinks or the stress. In 2010, at 53 years old, Phil had a massive stroke. Unfortunately, addiction ran through the Harris family like a curse. The moment everything changed. On January 29, 2010, the crew was offloading crab when Phil suddenly collapsed. It was a massive stroke. His crew jumped into action, radioing for help. EMTs rushed in. St. Paul Island was so remote that the nearest major hospital was hundreds of miles away. They stabilized Phil, arranged a medevac, and flew him to Anchorage. His sons and crew were left behind, stunned as Phil was flown away, fighting for his life. The cameras captured every moment, every frantic radio call. It raised tough questions. Should such pain be shown to the world? Phil couldn't say yes or no. Discovery worked closely with the family. The Harris boys gave their consent. They wanted people to see the truth, to honor their dad. But it was a choice that still makes people uneasy today. At first, it seemed like Phil might beat the odds. He squeezed hands, he spoke and joked. Doctors couldn't believe it. Most stroke patients take months to reach what Phil did in days. However, a sudden brain bleed changed everything. Phil's condition became worse. His sons and friends stayed by his side. There was nothing left to do but say goodbye. On February 9, 2010, Phil Harris was gone. His ashes were divided, half placed in a Harley-Davidson gas tank with his mother's remains, the rest scattered at sea. The sea had always been his home. When the Deadliest Catch episode, Redemption Day, aired on July 20, 2010, 5.4 million people watched. It became one of the most watched episodes ever. Many said they cried right along with the Harris family. It wasn't just a show anymore. Phil Harris wasn't simply a captain. He became the heart of Deadliest Catch. Years after his death, fans still share his quotes online. They still wear shirts and hats with his sayings. His voice hasn't faded, and his spirit lives on. After Captain Phil Harris died in February 2010, his sons Josh and Jake faced a heartbreaking and nearly impossible task. They wanted to keep the Cornelia Marie in the family. However, they didn't have full ownership, and buying out the other stakeholders would cost more money than they could have imagined. The boat also required serious repairs, making things even more difficult. The brothers repeatedly attempted to secure loans. However, no one believed in them. Banks and investors saw them as too young, too inexperienced, and too risky. In addition, there were family tensions. Cornelia Marie Devlin, the woman the boat was named after and Phil's former business partner, owned a big stake. She didn't always see eye to eye with the Harris brothers. Negotiations were tense. For years, Josh and Jake fought to save their father's legacy. They had to prove themselves to their crew, the fishing community, and millions of viewers. It sometimes felt like they might never succeed. After Phil's death, the Cornelia Marie entered a troubled time. Derek Ray, an old friend of Phil's, stepped in as interim captain. His job was to honor Phil's wish that the boat's story continue on Deadliest Catch. However, Ray's leadership caused friction. He was strict. He clashed with the grieving brothers, especially Jake. Ray even accused Jake of using drugs on board and called the police to scare him straight. That moment stunned the crew and fans alike. The boat, once united under Phil, now felt divided. When the crab haul was poor, the crew came close to mutiny. They blamed Ray for not finding crab and for his harsh style. This period became one of the most painful and dramatic chapters in the Cornelia Marie's history. Finally, after years of struggle, Josh found a way forward. He teamed up with Casey McManus, a childhood friend who had grown into a skilled engineer and deckhand. Together, they raised the necessary funds. Josh bought 45% of the Cornelia Marie. Casey bought 5%. The remaining 50% went to two outside investors, each holding 25%. This deal gave them what they needed to overhaul the boat. They added new 750 horsepower Cummins engines and made other major improvements. In 2015, Josh and Casey became fellow captains, only replacing the engines with 2,758 horsepower Cummins diesels meant finding new partners to help pay the bills. The expenses included crew wages, fuel, insurance, and repairs. Josh called it a black hole for money. Then the pandemic made things worse. Crew wages shot up to 10 times the usual rate. Every season felt like a gamble. One bad catch could mean disaster. The only way to survive was to take bigger risks, like hunting golden king crab in deeper, deadlier waters. The cameras added a whole new layer. The show's demands didn't always match the crew's safety. Filming during storms, delaying trips, and pushing for drama made great TV, but it also made crab fishing even more dangerous. Sometimes Discovery Channel even pulled the boat from the show. It wasn't fishing, but legal or image issues. The crew had to balance surviving the sea with performing for millions watching from their couches. Josh and Cummins argued at times and puzzled viewers, but their teamwork kept the Cornelia Marie alive and brought it back to Deadliest Catch. While Josh was rebuilding the boat and his future, Jake's life was falling apart. His addiction had already surfaced before Phil's death, and now it was spiraling out of control. Millions of viewers watched the episode where Phil confronted Jake for stealing painkillers. Jake admitted he was an addict. Things only got worse after Phil was gone. Jake was arrested for DUI. Then, in 2017, he was arrested again for drug possession and car theft. 2 years later, in 2019, he went to prison for DUI and for trying to distribute heroin. It all came to a head in 2024, when he led police on a high-speed chase and ended up with an 18-month prison sentence. Jake became estranged from Josh and the Cornelia Marie. In October 2016, fans were shocked when the Cornelia Marie and Josh were missing from Season 13 of Deadliest Catch. Social media exploded with rumors. Josh then posted a video to clarify things. The producers had simply decided to focus on other boats that season. Josh shared his disappointment and assured fans that he and the crew were ready to fish. Fans were furious. Many threatened to boycott the show until the Cornelia Marie came back. The network wanted to shake up the storylines. After so many years, they felt the show needed fresh angles to keep viewers interested. But for Josh and the crew, it was frustrating. Their lives and reputations were tied to the show. On top of everything else, the Harris family faced terrible health crises. At one point, more than one family member was in the ICU at the same time. In July 2024, Renee Harris had a massive heart attack. She needed a double bypass, spent a week in intensive care, and was on life support for days. Her heart stopped 4 times. Other family members struggled with strokes, brain bleeds, and medical emergencies. The stress was crushing, so they had to focus on survival instead of fishing or filming. Fans rallied around them, sent money and messages of support. Adding to the heartbreak was the loss of Captain Grant Harris, Josh's grandfather. After losing Phil, this second loss hit Josh hard. The pressure of living up to 2 generations of captains while facing his battles weighed heavily on Josh. He has been open about his struggles with depression and anxiety, but those losses also fueled his drive. So he chose to honor his father and grandfather by keeping the Cornelia Marie story alive. Through it all, the crew who filmed Deadliest Catch became more than just camera operators. They became like family. They faced the same freezing winds, dangerous seas, and sleepless nights. They saw the Harris family's most private moments, the grief, the victories, the heartbreak. Sometimes they had to step back during deeply personal times, but often they shared the chores, the meals, and even the tensions. When the Cornelia Marie returned in Season 14 of Deadliest Catch, fans felt a burst of energy. After disappearing in 2017, the boat's absence left many viewers heartbroken. When Discovery announced its return for the 2018 season, excitement exploded. Social media was flooded with posts, memes, and even petitions begging the network to keep the boat in the lineup. Ratings soared as viewers tuned in to see Josh Harris and Casey McManus at the helm. Fans wanted to see if the new generation could honor Phil's legacy. The joy and relief were clear. The Cornelia Marie was part of the show's soul, and its comeback felt like getting a piece of that soul back. In 2020, the Harris story took a surprising new turn with the launch of Deadliest Catch Bloodline. This spin-off moved the action from Alaska's icy waters to Hawaii's sunny shores. It all started when Josh found 50 to 60 old fishing charts hidden in his dad's stateroom on the Cornelia Marie. 3 of these maps were for Hawaii, filled with strange notes and marked fishing spots. Josh, determined to follow his father's clues, teamed up with Casey and a local fisherman named Jeff Silva. Together, they chased the secrets hidden in Phil's maps. They weren't just after big fish like ahi tuna, worth as much as $2,000 each. They were uncovering a hidden part of Phil's past. Bloodline mixed fishing with a personal quest. As the Cornelia Marie continued to sail, leadership changes slowly became apparent. Casey McManus began taking charge more and more. While Josh faced personal and legal troubles, Casey stepped up to the challenge. By Season 14, fans noticed Casey taking charge of the boat's operations and making key decisions. Behind the scenes, his skills kept the Cornelia Marie running smoothly and financially stable. However, Josh's role shrank even more when his dark secrets came out. The truth about Josh, the worst blow came in September 2022, when it became public that he had pleaded guilty years earlier to sexually assaulting a minor. Discovery acted fast. They cut all ties with Josh and removed Deadliest Catch and Bloodline from streaming platforms. Josh's reputation collapsed almost overnight. The bombshell first hit in August 2022, when old court documents surfaced online. Fans were stunned to learn that in 1998, Josh, then 15, had sexually assaulted a 4-year-old family friend's daughter. The case details were horrifying. DNA delays meant charges didn't come until the following year. In 1999, Josh pleaded guilty to a lesser charge and served 9 months in jail. He also had to complete 2 years of treatment. Many felt the punishment was far too light given the crime. For more than 2 decades, this dark past stayed hidden. When the truth finally came out, fans were angry and betrayed, wondering how such a serious crime had been overlooked. Discovery moved quickly once the news broke. Old episodes vanished from streaming services across the US, Canada, and beyond. Even promotional posts and tweets disappeared. The network wanted no link to the scandal. Fans had mixed feelings. Some praised Discovery's swift action, while others mourned the loss of the Cornelia Marie from their screens. Casey McManus, though innocent in all of this, also paid a price. When Discovery cut ties with Josh, they also cut ties with Casey. His contract wasn't renewed, and his time on the show ended through no fault of his own. Fans felt it was unfair. Casey had always been respected, but he got caught in the storm. In 2024, Cornelia Marie started a new chapter. On June 17th, Taylor Jensen announced that he and a group of partners had bought the boat. The team included Jensen, Roger Thomas, Carrie Toya, and Jake Albanino. With Albanino taking over as captain, fans were excited to see fresh faces ready to steer Cornelia Marie into the future. The new owners made it clear that while they honored the boat's history, their focus would be on fishing, not fame. For the first time since Phil Harris's death, Cornelia Marie was free from the shadow of the Harris family. What do you think about that? Share your thoughts in the comments. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe. Before you go, click on the video displayed on your screen.